smaller teaching sample so that we can zoom in and see very closely what I'm doing here on the lapel. This has the lapel, it has the chest front, we've done the neck dart, the taping on the roll line is here, and you can see I've basted it all together. It's just a smaller version of all that we just talked about. So the idea is that we have the suit coat, the chest front, and the lapel rolling back from the roll line or break line. The idea is that we want to stitch, quilt together by hand these two layers so that they will hold each other back in the fashion that we want them to live and reinforce each other. It's sort of like a suspension bridge, this stitching. One, you know, the strength of this side holds this one in place, this side holds the other one in place. That's where we're headed with this. When we're done, there will be only one way for this lapel to roll, and it will be this way, and so when the gentleman is wearing it, there's no question that the lapel will look untidy. So that's the whole objective with the pad stitching. People new to pad stitching often find it comforting to give themselves some guidelines, maybe a ½ an inch apart on the lapel, and then maybe a ¼ of an inch apart as we get to the corner, this outside corner of the lapel. The reason is that as we pad stitch out, we're going to take smaller stitches here in the corner because it quilts the corner more tightly and more firmly, and we always want that to have sort of a sharp corner architectural look to it. So to demonstrate with paper and pencil or pen what this pad stitch is going to be looking like, imagine that the tip of the pen is the needle and you go in, take a bite, and come out. You move your needle down and you take a bite here, which causes the thread to lie on top in a diagonal. Come out here, move your needle down, take a bite, which causes your thread to lay on top. This is the bite. Thread laying on top, take a bite. Thread laying on top, take a bite. Take a bite, come out here. We need to turn around and go back. We don't turn the work. We don't really do anything different, except we come over here with our thread, take a bite, come up here, which lays thread on top, take a bite, this is underneath, lay thread on top, take a bite, and so forth, so that you end up with stitches that look like that. And at the end and beginning of your stitch lines, there may be that extra piece of thread where you jump over to take a bite and start over again. Take a bite, lay thread, take a bite, lay thread, take a bite, lay thread. So here is some thread and a needle. I'll do that again. So I'm taking a bite, laying thread, actually take another bite, then lay the thread, take a bite, which lays thread on the diagonal, take a bite, take a bite, take a bite, and then you run out of room and you think I have to go back, so go over, that lays thread across, take a bite, and proceed. The important part to remember is when I say take a bite, what I really mean is take the tiniest pinprick of a bite, because on the underneath of the lapel, we don't even want to see that much. It's just hard to go through this paper. Take the tiniest pinprick of a bite and proceed. So let's apply that stitching to the lapel. We're wanting to roll, like roll pinning, roll the lapel over your finger. This is a pretty good roll pinning size. What I like to do is use my hand as a rest, holding the coat front to the table, so that I can then have a little bit of a tension here and roll that. So I'm going to take the tiniest bite, and I don't like to use knots in tailoring this pad stitching, so I'm just going to take an extra or 2 stitches to anchor that there. So once you have that anchored, there is my tiny bite, and I'm moving my needle perpendicular to the roll line or break line. And I can feel, with these tiny pinpricks through to my finger, I can feel every time I come through, and so I want to just take the shallowest of bites. I'm using my finger as the roll line, and every 2 or 3 stitches I need to move my hand up. I'm going to turn it like this. Do you see how badly I'm cocking my wrist here? Don't do that. Bad ergonomics. Turn your work like this so that you can maintain that safety in your wrist. You want to be doing this, if you love this work, you want to be doing it for a really long time. So here I am taking the bite and laying the thread down. Taking the bite, and the thread just lays down in that diagonal. When you come to the wiggun that is bridging the gap on the neck dart, just treat it all as one. Pad stitch right over it. It's not a problem. Treat it all as one. Now I'm going to come up to the end of this row, and you'll see that I may need to take just an extra small stitch right here because I was pacing myself, having fairly even stitches, and there wasn't enough room for an entire stitch, so I just took a small stitch. That's fine. And I'm going to come over and start stitching again. Stitching down, and that creates the diagonals that herringbone into each other. Some people call it chicken feet. If you find that you're working on a lapel that is quite big, go ahead and sort of tuck that under, keep that out of your way. When you go to the next row of pad stitching, just move your work so that the place that you are doing the pad stitching is at that apex of the top of your finger, so that you're really building in a nice roll as this springs away from the break line or the roll line. What to do when you start to run out of thread? Take an extra stitch on top of itself, trim that down so you're not leaving long tails, rethread, take an extra stitch, and continue. So here I have done 2 rows of stitches, pad stitching up, pad stitching back down, and I'm about to start coming up again. And on each of those I used the apex of the curve of my finger to roll that as I was stitching. And you can see already that that roll is springing nicely away from the taped line. Now, we don't want that hard of a roll all the way on this lapel, otherwise we would end up with a lapel that looks like a cannoli. It needs to be, filled with cream. That is not the effect we're after. And so as we move along the pad stitching, we want to change the roll from this hard, very hard roll, very sharp roll, to a softer roll, which is another part of the hand and holding the lapel and the wool a little more softly. You can see now I'm flattening out the roll. And so you would want to flatten out the roll for the next several, probably most of the body of the lapel, and then out here make sure on the corner where we want to take smaller and smaller stitches, maybe 1/4 of an inch stitches, make sure to have a soft roll there so that this outside corner turns nicely against the chest and it doesn't stand out away from the chest area. So back to this full coat teaching sample. The lapel has been pad stitched, and this tailor's tape has been stitched on loosely with cross stitches. That's okay. I really do prefer the slip stitch. I think it's a firmer and a better finish on that. These stitches are too big anyway, but I'm just showing you that we next tape the outer edge of this lapel. And that's how you lay on canvas, tape the line, tape the edge rather, tape the roll line or break line. Oh, this is another method. This one is stitched on by machine, which for theatrical tailoring on a tweedy coat, that works just fine. Pad stitch the lapel and then tape the outer edge of it.